Then confidence interval that provides a range of the values within with the true population results lie bounded by the upper and the lower confidence limits. What are those ones? The upper one is 95% and can go out of the 100 times. Then there's continuous data and discrete data. Continuous is like, height in centimeters, and discrete is number of patients in the ICU, like this. Categorical, and there is a four level of the measurements: categorical, ordinal, interval, and the ratio. Then comes the validity and the accuracy. How the we are talking about the validity and accuracy. I think I showed the pictures. We are talking about those ones. How the accuracy and the precision works. So accuracy is the measurement reflects the entire it claims to measure. Then the precision is how consistent multiple measurements and where the underlying subject of the measurement has not changed. Then the internal validity degree to which the finding of the sample truly presents the finding in the study population. Then the external validity in which the study can organize to the other studies of population. Again, common statistical values, two sample analysis, chi-square, linear, logistic, and then the movement correlation. What kind of the variables do you measure? So basically dependent variables, independent variables, and then assumptions. Dependent variables, independent in that case is which one to sample, it's continuous. In the analysis of variance, it's the continuous, it's chi-square, it's categorical. In the linear, it's continuous. In the logistic regression, it's categorical. And then in the personal product is basically continuous. So you can see which one are those ones. Then if you can read this one, causation, the criteria of causation is at least remember the names: strength of association, consistency, specificity, temporal relationship, biological gradient, biological plausibility, and then coherence, and then experimental evidence and anagly. Then when we are making this pyramid, the one that is the background, it's the expert opinion. Then comes the good one is basically case control, then cohort, then the randomized controlled trial, then the systemic appraisal, and then the critically appraisal, and then the systemic reviews. So you need to remember how the stepwise it is. Then we are talking about this PQLI, at least this one, the quality improvement, how the evaluation, the improving process works, and focusing more on systems and systemic biases. Then quality assurance is basically the formulation of the working goals, changes, current performance, development of solutions, and quality assurance is all that. Quality control is basically process of surveying the quality of all the factors. Then continuous continued quality improvement, the process of ongoing service, product refinement via the vigilant review of the expectant issues, and then the quality management combination of the several processes, then the total quality, and then this one is basically all. So if you can read this one is not that crazy thing that you need to. Then this is the Ishikawa table, diaphragm, how the hand washing works and then causes the nosocomial infection. So if we try to do this one, how does it work? So if you see, the phase one is basically talking about the desired result. Phase two is basically when we are behavior and environmental changes, then the predisposing, enabling, and then phase four is administrative. Then phase five is implementation. Phase six is basically proceed evaluation, impact evaluation, and outcome evaluation. Then again, when we did this yesterday, outbreak, endemic, epidemic, and I gave you the formulas, sorry, the definition. So if you do it from there, you don't need to do it from here. And then I think over there was not attack rate, so dual attack rate from here. Production of an initially diseased free population that develops the disease over a specific period of time. Then the secondary attack rate when you develop the diseases as a result of the exposure of the primary contacts. Then the virulence is basically an infectious agent. Case fatality rate is basically a proportion of the population which the disease who died as a result. Mortality rate is the proportion of the population that died from any cause. Then the basic reproduction number is basically the average number of the secondary infection. Then the reducing inequality is basically going for the COVID-19, like primary, secondary, and all those tertiary prevention. Okay, so there's one more thing. So when you are doing, for the first time read, second time read, third time read, in that cases, I would recommend asking you to do the group study. But when you are doing a last read, or when you are doing a second last read, I wouldn't recommend you to do it with someone. Do it with yourself. and do it quickly and see how it works. You in the first, second, third read, you can make notes together, do everything together. But in the last read, I wouldn't recommend asking you to do it with anyone. Try to do it by yourself. Try to do where you are lacking. Because when you are doing with someone, you are not able to tell that where you are lacking. If you feel like, okay, I'm doing it with someone, I can do it fast and he can tell me where I'm lacking, then you can do it. But for many people, they don't feel enough. So in that case, I wouldn't recommend doing it with someone. The last read should be your own personal read. Steps to control an outcome. In that case, is the one contact one, the droplet. I think we already discussed all of these one. The airborne, then the 10-step approach: identify, establish, verify the diagnosis, define a cause, find cases, then descriptive epidemiology, hypothesis, implemental control, and then communicate the finding and continue the surveillance. How we are talking about the infectious control, if there is a host, agent, and environment. In this one, nutrition, plasmodial, and then tropical. So again, environmental health jurisdiction, which one works where the public health unit works in the enforcement of water, the environmental risk, the reportable diseases. So public health where we report the disease and cluster of the diseases. The municipal works for the water disposal, water entry, like environmental engineers and all that, sewage, like mainly the water and dirt and all that. Then the provisional works with the water and quality, air quality, like how the fire thing is going on in Manitoba. So they are working in the air quality and letting us know. So which one is working, the provincial and territorial, industrial emission, and then toxic waste. Then the federal works in the toxic substances, food, like where is it coming from? Like, export and import part, they are working on that level. Then the international is basically they are doing the multilateral lateral agreements, like bringing the climate change and all that. What are the hazards, the environmental hazards, the hazard identification, risk characteristics, and those ones, then the air hazards and all that. So in this environmental hazards, you need to remember there's a very important thing. So, if a person is working in a coal mine, what kind of diseases he can get? If a person is working in the lead industry, what kind of diseases he can get? So you need to remember these ones. And if someone is working in the coal mine, what you as a family physician are going to counsel? So wearing gloves, wearing mask, wearing gowns, so don't get exposed with, coal or whatever it is. Okay, so that's what you need to remember. Here, I don't think so much is written, but for your understanding, so it says heavy metal, nickel, cadmium, and then what kind of diseases it can cause. So that's what I was talking about. Upper respiratory tract as the mind, then lung infection. How do you can control it? By asking them to wear masks, gloves, talking to your talking to your supervisor, how to control those ones. Then the radiation hazards and then water hazards, which kind of conditions they can get from the water. So Escherichia coli, Giardia, and then they can get what kind of conditions like diarrhea or cancer and all of them. As you can see, the chlorinated water can cause cancer at the higher levels. That's what I'm talking about. So in these environmental hazards, all you need to remember is which kind of conditions they can get it from. So in soil, they can get it from tetanus and pseudomonas. How do you can control it? By asking them to do the tetanus vaccination, don't get exposed. So wearing gloves, gowns, and those things work the same. Then here, the food, what kind of disease they can get it from there and how you can control it by talking about the water intake, don't change, share the food and, all of those ones. Yeah, so that's about it for epidemiology. I think I makes a little bit of sense of how to do it. So I think that's what I was talking about. Sorry. Yes. So if you can see how do the workplace legislation, like, occupational hazards. So physical, chemical, biological, social, and economic. So if you can skip that one, from there you have to remember the diseases. Here you need to read like what kind of conditions that can be affected by physically, chemically, biological, and then physiological, psychological, and ergonomic. When we are talking about the control of that one, so workers have the right to know, participate, refuse work, and stop work. So it's a very important question. As a family physician, we deal with this one, the work compensation board. So in that cases, then health promotion. How do you do the health promotion? In this one is education, planning, information campaign, and then the workplace sport. What are this is what I was talking about, workplace primary prevention. How do you do the primary prevention, or what you tell them to do in the primary prevention, like wearing gloves, washing your hand after working, how to take care of and avoid the negligence, followed by isolation, supervisor hazards, elimination one, and then training and behavioral efforts, and lastly the protective equipments. Then again, the secondary prevention in this one, how do you do? Some examples include the whole blood test, checking for, how much they have the lead in the body. Then the PFTs for asthma, how much they have gotten asthma, like occupational dust exposure. Then audiogram for the hearing loss. This comes the secondary. Then comes the tertiary prevention. Treatment of the diseases may cause the rehabilitation and retraining. Like they got something there, their backbone is broken or something like that. In that case, is how do you do it? Then often also require the accommodating the workplace for a worker who has a non-occupational injury. So, like ADHD people, or people who have speaking problems. In those cases, how do you put them in the department where they don't have to speak anyone? So that's how you adjust it. Relevant authorities if necessary, so in that case is report to the public health. Like if there is an outbreak of hepatitis B in the people, so do you have to report it to the public health? Condition of the Ministry of Transport, like where they have hearing issues and it can affect their vertigo and can cause vertigo and affect their driving. So in that case is reporting it to the Ministry of the Health. What are the reportable diseases? So they already put those ones. The diseases marked with this one, cryptococcidiasis, mainly that these ones are the most common ones, the primary viral, post-viral, subacute, unspecified one. Then hepatitis A1, Ebola virus, measles, mumps, rubella, where there is vaccination, those ones are mainly the one that we have to tell them. Ophthalmia neonatorum, meningococcal pertussis, plague, polio, these ones, tetanus, tuberculosis, typhoid, West Nile fever, salmonella, shigella, smallpox, syphilis. These are the ones that you have to report. There's one thing here. Shit. Wait. So in the this one here, I think they document this one. So in the people who have the work related problem, they do notify to the work compensation board. Okay, this is called WCB. So you need to remember, if they ask it is if there is a work related injury, who do you inform it to? So there is work compensation board for each province. So we do inform those ones. And for the disability, if you have to inform, this is basically either a EIA programs, like for each province, like employment insurance disability programs, or it's basically the notifiable of those ones to the provincial level disabilities. So that disability program works differently. But for the workplace compensation, so that's what I'm telling you. Don't mix up these ones. If someone is coming for the disability is something else. Work compensation board, where they got injury at workplace. So if they ask you after prevention or whatever, they got an injury at workplace, who will you notify? So don't notify to public health, no notify to Ministry of Transport, you have to notify to the public health. Not, sorry, public health, work compensation board again. Then the other reportable condition is live birth, stillbirth, and this one is basically checking for all of those. One, child abuse, you have to contact to the cast, gunshot wounds. Okay, please keep it in your head, the gunshot wounds is supposed to be told to the police services. It is a reportable disease. It is a reportable disease. Gunshot wound, rabies, these both are the reportable one. Then the abuse of the long-term care or the retirement home residents to the registrar of the retirement home resident. Then unfit to drive. This is basically Ministry of Transport. Unfit to fly is basically Federal Ministry of the Transport. Who you have to, tell. Is it medical issue like the burnout? Is it for the, in that cases, if burnout happens, in that cases, you don't have to notify to the WCBs. In that cases, as a doctor, you can give them the notice to take time off or give them less hours. Otherwise, it's not notifiable to the, if they, after burnout, they do got a cut on their hand, or if they do got some little injury after burnout, then it could be related to the WCB.